you have come to um, the various components of language, of a particular language that you learn, your native tongue, the sounds that you hear, that by the first year you have heard all your sounds and syntax and grammar. That means how to arrange your sentences, understanding the difference between nouns and verbs and so on, and meaning, semantics of language also is nearly complete by the time that we're 14. So when we don't experience proper sound, meaning, and syntax when we're young, then there will be problems. That means that until 12, 14 years old, we are very open and plastic and malleable to learn language. After that age, we don't learn that much. We have what ability we have, and then we use that to carry on reading, writing, studies, and so on. So if we're exposed to language greatly when we're young, then we will be able to use language and understand language when we get older. If that period is missed, then there's great difficulty that occurs. So that would sound crazy, but without any evidence, but we do have evidence, and that evidence of deprivation is found with feral children and children that come from disadvantaged backgrounds who are not exposed to the full range of language, their native language or foreign languages, and they will have great difficulty mastering their language if they're only exposed to it later in life. So it's very important to, in relations and family, to have a clear focus on developing language skills when we're young. Here is a video that I would like you to watch about Oksana Malaya. A girl was raised by dogs. She started this, she began her experience when she was 3 years old, and she was found when she was 7 years old. And she is one of the few who have recovered somewhat from the experience of having an important period in her life not being exposed to language, and this is the result that you see. And so it's something to think about in terms of language acquisition and care. Can you see that?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't.
So.
Can you hear it?
Abandoned by her parents.
Now we can.
Can you hear it?
Now we can. Yes.
That becomes her home. They become her family for the next 6 years.
Let me start it again.
It's an extraordinary story.
Yes, please.
A little girl, neglected, rejected, abandoned by her parents. For comfort, she snuggles up in the farmyard kennels with the dogs. That becomes her home. They become her family for the next 6 years. They protect her, feed her, maybe even love her. And in return, she begins to act like them. It's a remarkable case, one that startled the world of science, especially when the doctors tried to teach her to be a normal child. In fact, the film you're about to see reignites the whole nature versus nurture debate, and it could make you think twice about the way we bring up our kids. At first, this looks like some kind of strange hoax. Ukrainian girl Oksana Malaya running, jumping, eating and barking just like a dog. But this is no fraud. Oksana's behaviour is the result of the most cruel childhood neglect that began when she was 3.
Mum had too many kids. We didn't have enough beds. So I crawled to the dog and started living with her.
Her parents were alcoholics, and one night, too drunk to care, they left their infant daughter outside in the cold. Looking for warmth, Oksana crawled into the farm kennel. Curling up with the mongrel dogs probably saved her life.
I would talk to them, they would bark, and I would repeat it. That was our way of communication.
For the next 6 years, from the age of 3 to 8, the kennel was Oksana's home and the dogs her family. She had very little human contact, and when finally discovered, it was obvious there'd been catastrophic consequences for Oksana's development.
She was more like a little dog than a human child. She used to show a tongue when she saw water, and she used to eat with a tongue and not a hand.
Oksana is now 22 and lives in a special care home. Remarkably, she is able to speak, able to communicate some feelings, and that's some progress.
Well, I remember her when she was initially brought here. She wasn't like a human being. She was like a small animal. About half a year later, she had completely changed.
But certain situations still trigger deeply ingrained responses.
When I feel lonely, I find myself doing anything. I crawl on all fours. This is how lonely I am. Because I have nobody. I spend my time with dogs. I go for walks and do anything I want to. Nobody notices that I crawl on all fours.
When we're talking about how does a child learn to live with dogs, there's obviously no deal as such, but there's give and take. So the dogs are giving their love, their attention, their acceptance in a sense. And what the child must give is that they've got to learn to adapt to the dog situation. And if that means eating raw meat and scavenging a rubbish tip, that's what they're going to have to learn to do, because otherwise they're not going to survive. I'd like you to ask Oksana if the house is a particular place you know.
Using drawings, child psychologist Lynn Fry tries to determine what damage the years spent with dogs have done to Oksana's intellectual and social development.
The drawing of a person has always been taken as quite a good judge of basic ability. And her drawing was very similar to you would expect from a 6-year-old.
Cognitive tests also show this 22-year-old has the mental age of a 5 or 6-year-old. And because Oksana missed out on so much human contact during her early years, she also missed out on the chance to learn basic human skills. Psychologists believe she'll never be able to catch up.
I don't think that she's ever going to learn to read or do anything else there that's going to be useful, not now, because I suspect she's reluctant to learn that.
Cases like Oksana Malaya provide extraordinary opportunities for scientists, opportunities that could never otherwise be replicated because of their cruelty. In this day and age, experimenting on newborn babies is obviously a no-no. So the so-called feral children are like the forbidden experiment. They give us an insight into the age-old debate, nature versus nurture. Are we a product of our genes, or are we a product of our experiences? Back in the 1930s, there weren't the same ethical concerns about children, and American scientist Winthrop Kellogg used his own 18-month-old son Donald in an experiment with a chimpanzee. The idea was that by spending lots of time together every day, the chimpanzee would take on human characteristics learned from the child, and that happened. But unexpectedly, the child also began barking and yelping like the chimp, mimicking it. By accident, Kellogg had shown the vulnerability of early childhood, how infants adapt to changes in their environment.
The question's always been asked by people who have studied these children in the past. It's about what does it really mean to be human. We look at the development of language. What happens if you don't get language up to a critical period? And that critical period is, I think, now generally accepted that if you haven't got language by about 5, you're not going to get language at all.
Officials have taken custody of a 13-year-old girl who they say was kept in such isolation by her parents that she never even learned to talk.
Perhaps most inexplicable of all the feral children is Jeannie Wiley, found not in some poverty-stricken third world country, but right in the heart of middle-class Los Angeles.
The girl still wore diapers and was uttering infantile noises. Social worker discovered the case 2 weeks ago. The authorities are hoping she still may have a normal learning capacity.
For the first 13 years of her life, Jeannie endured almost total sensory and social deprivation, isolated in her bedroom. By day, she was strapped onto a potty chair. By night, chained to her bed. Detective Frank Lindley was one of the first people to see her when she was discovered in 1970. It was Jeannie's dominating and mentally unstable father, Clark Wiley, who cut his daughter off from the world, even from her own mother and brother. Jeannie had never learned to speak, so scientists wondered if she could ever be taught. Looked after in foster care, she also became a living experiment for linguists like Susan Curtis.
She was extremely interested in everything around her. She wanted to know the word of everything around her. She wanted to engage with people all around her. She was not mentally deficient. Her lights were on. Everyone who worked with her, from teachers, from therapists to me, knew that she was not retarded.
The conventional thinking was that language would be impossible, but early on, Jeannie confounded the scientists.
As she began to learn more and more words, hundreds of words, much more rapidly than I ever imagined, and stringing them together, I began to think maybe I will be wrong. Maybe she will be the one who will prove that this hypothesis is incorrect.
But then things changed for the worse. Haunted by her traumatic upbringing, Jeannie's development stopped.
She learned tons of words. She has an enormous vocabulary. But language is not words. Language is grammar. Language is sentences. How do you make a sentence? What can be a sentence?
In Jeannie's brain, the left part of her brain, her cortex, that has those neural systems responsible for speech and language.
At 18, Jeannie Wiley's life took another strange and tragic twist. She left the care of foster parents and moved back in with her mother, back into the house where she'd endured 13 years of neglect.
People wouldn't listen to me. People who needed to intervene did not listen to me. And so I spent lots and lots of time on the phone pleading with people to intervene and save this person who had had the worst experience of deprivation and isolation in all recorded medical history, who was now in a crisis situation.
As you'd expect, her condition quickly deteriorated. Her mother couldn't cope, and Jeannie was put into an institution. She was also lost to science, a court order stopping people like Susan Curtis going anywhere near her.
I went from being asked to be her guardian to 1 week later being prevented from seeing or phoning. And ever since then, I've been prevented from having any contact at all.
Jeannie's almost 50 now. She's still institutionalized and still not allowed contact with the scientists. Her present condition is unknown.
We are continuing to learn more and more about how to help these children and more about how these neglectful experiences influence their brain. But we're just on the very cusp of being able to be helped. Because to date, we haven't done a very good job of that. We just haven't understood the brain and brain development in ways that would allow us to be as good as we can be. And I think that that's changing.
Why feral children like Jeannie want to be reunited with their parents is perhaps explained in the 1960s experiments of notorious psychologist Harry Harlow. He took newborn monkeys from their mothers and gave them a choice between a cold wire surrogate with milk or a soft, warm surrogate without. They chose comfort above food every time. So maybe we've been hardwired to expect comfort from our biological parents, no matter what they do to us.
Harlow's work was really seminal in this entire field because he showed the crucial importance of the caregiving relationship between a mother and an infant, and how the physical stimulation, literally the physical contact with the caregiver, has profound impact on healthy development.
That same desire burns in Oksana. 14 years after being free from her parents' appalling cruelty, she's made some remarkable advances. Her speaking and language are far better than her caregivers ever imagined possible. Now she makes the decision she wants to find and meet her mother and father.
I want to see them with my own eyes so desperately because I've been told I have no parents, but actually I do.
Her mother has long since disappeared, but her father, Alexander, agrees to a reunion. He leaves his farm and makes a 350-kilometre journey to Oksana. And there's another surprise. For support, he brings along Nina, Oksana's half-sister she didn't even know existed. It's an awkward meeting. At first, father and daughter just stand there, staring at each other. Then, a few tentative steps closer.
Я любила игры. Это мои сестры. Реально. Нормально.
For these children, because they have not had the experiences that help their brain organize systems to make sense of the world never makes sense.
Despite all her suffering and the damage it's done to her brain, Oksana does have an undeniable spirit and the truly remarkable human gift of forgiveness.
We should look at these children not with pity, but with awe. I mean, they're just, it's fascinating that you can go through something like that and that you would still be willing, after what human beings have done to you, that you'd still be willing to put your hand out and touch a new person.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.
Wow, remarkable.
Okay, any questions? Any questions on this?
I would say, go ahead.
Go ahead, Father. Then I ask a question.
Well, this is definitely
At 3, what happened that she had to live with the dogs? What are the parents?
Alcoholics.
Oh, okay. And she never knew that that's where she's dwelling.
She was dwelling in the compound of her parents, but with dogs.
Okay.
For 6 years.
Wow.
7 years.
And did you not realize that, or they didn't do anything to her?
No, no.
Jesus Christ, that's a neglect.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I know about
She's,
the other one.
she's still alive.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, she's 40 years old now.
Wow, 40. Wow.
But
Okay.
her abilities are at the 5 or 6 year old.
Of course, living with dogs. You know, dogs have some certain illnesses that she has passed through them. So ability to be just like that. You know? Oh my God. No medical treatment, nothing at that time.
Well,
Jesus.
there's no treatment after a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever language skills you have developed, they pretty much stay right there. So
Mm-hmm.
you get most of your language ability experience, your neuroplasticity, your mental plasticity,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual. It's not just brain, it's also your internal being.
Mm-hmm.
And by 12, 14 years old, if it's not well developed, it's very difficult. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult to develop it afterwards, after that age. So all you need to be is to have parents who talk to you and other people who speak with you. And that's the basic. If you have that, everything should work out, no matter how externally disadvantaged you are. If you have that parental and sibling and friend give and take relation, then your intellectual abilities connected to language will be okay.
Cognitively, how does she behave? Does she behave like the dogs, or?
She behaved like dogs, and it couldn't do anything in the beginning. After that, she was running around like you saw her, on all fours, and she would only eat with her, teeth, not with her hands. And when she would go to the bathroom, she did it just like a dog. Everything was like a dog. That's what she learned. And then you had the other case where the little kid was the scientist let his daughter hang around with the chimp, thinking that the chimp would become like the daughter. Now, when I was in college, that was a big thing. You teach chimpanzees and gorilla, you try and teach them sign language and to talk and so on. So this was one of those fellows who did that. And then he found out that his daughter started acting like a chimp. And so that's the human plasticity to absorb everything that is in our environment. We are like vacuum cleaners, and we just suck up everything. And if we're not careful, we will always end up sucking up the wrong thing. We have to be careful about it. And even into old age, we can learn new tricks if we make ourselves open. If we're not open, we'll just keep acting like we're 12, 14 years old.
Wow. That's huge.
Mm.
Hey, Louis,
Yes.
who take care of her now? Was she born with that stigma or what?
No, she was a normal girl.
really?
Nothing wrong
Oh.
with her. She became that way because she was not exposed to normal social existence and spiritual existence. That was not given to her. So to learn that later in life, it's difficult. The amazing thing about her, and this is why I picked her among the others. There are many others, but she was remarkable in that she retained some kindness, forgiveness, openness, which is not necessarily in many of the other cases of feral children. And, you know, of course, this example, it was on TV, people recorded it. It was in recent times. It wasn't back in the 19th century where a lot of these feral children existed, because it was very easy just to toss your kids away. It's not so easy to do that now. There was another case, they talked about a Jeannie Wiley. I think she's still alive. She's 61, but she never recovered. She learned vocabulary, but she was never really able to speak sentences.
She know her name? Does she know her name?
Yeah, I don't know. I know the cases, the case histories, but what they can actually do now, I don't know.
Oh my God.
So anyway, the language is this is just the idea is we have a sway of language, we have a critical period for learning language, and then we have to know that language is more than words. And that's another video I'd like to show you. It's very short. I'm just going to show you a section. It's no more than 2 minutes. And I want you to be budding anthropologists and take a good look and pay real close attention, and then you're going to see this man who is part of the Angu tribe, or the Tulambi, and he is going to taste white rice for the first time, and without flavoring and with salt. And then he's going to have a reaction. I want you to see if you can notice what he's saying, because he doesn't say anything, but he's talking. So I want you to take a look. Oops, wait, let me go back on that, because I didn't share the sound to make sure I select that. Okay. Now I have to go back. Okay, I have to come on, there you go.
The footage you are.
Okay, now this is a 40-minute long documentary, but I'm only going to show you one section, and just watch and see. Give you a little bit of room here.
The Tulambi remain weary, but decide to accept Jean-Pierre's hospitality. Metal plates, pots, and pans are another wonder. Rice is totally unknown. Sanjuga inspects it suspiciously.
Okay, no sound. Now you notice he's using the spoon upside down.
Mm.
He turns it around for him.
Mm.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Did you get it?
Yeah. Yes.
So the way they were expressing it was very loud, wasn't it?
Very clear and
Very
obvious.
clear. He
Yeah.
goes,
Yeah, good.
and his face lit up, and he said, "Man, this is good." But not only that, by him doing this, the other people also recognize that it's okay, and he's telling them, "Go ahead." So then they join in, and then they do it. Now some hit here, one person hit here, another person hit in the back. It all meant this is good. This
Right.
is good. I don't know, tasty, but just this is out of sight. And that shows that our language, when we are talking like on this Zoom call, it's not just the words that we are hearing. And we should then pay attention to all the language that's going on beyond the words that we speak.
Mm.
Okay.
Body language.
Mm.
Well,
Beautiful.
it's usually, I guess, whenever you hear about body language, it's mostly like this. It's showing some condition of our mind that we are resisting or we don't care or something like this. But this shows that there are very positive things going on, very
Yes.
small things that are happening while we're talking and speaking and communicating. Okay.
Beautiful.
I'll go on from here.
I just really enjoy the innocence and of their expressions. Welcome, Pastor Linda. Good to see you. Really enjoy that raw beauty.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to say much.
No.
And you can even see is it syntax or how maybe touching your face, the front part may mean very good. Or oh wow, it hit the spot. We used to again release of dopamine in the head, because that's where the excitement comes from. All this is like wow, very, very good.
Well, I'm sure in another culture, it could be, hit here or here, or, make a sound, or many, many different ways to express what we like. Now, okay, let's go on. And this next part is now we move out. We're going to looking at words and language itself. So last time we did talk about this, that language is composed of these 7 things. It's a symbolic system. We create symbols that we use, write, to speak, and to express ourselves. And whatever we create, it is not the experience, it's separate from the experience. So we say, we can say the word eyeglasses, and a picture of eyeglasses can come in your head, but it has nothing to do with, say, this pair of eyeglasses. It's just a concept. It's an idea. It's not anything at all. It's just a abstraction that's separate from the thing itself. And language is always formative. It gives us categories by which we can think. Without language, we will have difficulty thinking and organizing our world. So we need these words in order to make sense of the world. And language is always involved with abstraction and conceptualization. Abstraction is taking from our internal experiences what we're experiencing and then putting words to it and making a concept. When you do that, you're pulling away from the actual and creating the abstract. And that's what abstraction is. It's drawing out and then conceptualizing, drawing a picture of things that we experience in the world. And those abstractions allow us to think. Then the relationships between all the things we create, there has to be a relationship. They can't just be words. They have to have a connecting set of meanings so that it makes some kind of sense. So we have basic syntax, which orders the words. We have nouns, verbs, prepositions, adjectives, adverbs, and we add all those features to our language, and it then helps us to make sense and putting in a special order. So every language has its own syntax. They're not all the same. And then language allows us also to connect domains that are completely separate and different. So we can connect the spiritual realm of things to the physical realm through metaphor, or through metaphor of the physical, we can reach the spiritual. And so poetry has always been used, the poetic imagination has always been used to get at that spiritual, indescribable aspect. And so language has that. And then finally, language enables us to transmit, culture and understandings across generations. Without language, we simply cannot do that. Now, I created an exercise some time ago about how language actually works. And most of us don't spend much time, except for Linda Freem. She's very good at it, of examining words. Words are the building blocks of the world. We create our world through these words. And so it's very important, extremely important, to be able to always question a word and to find out what is inside the word, because a word like dog is chock full of all kinds of other things inside the word. Dog is just not a single word alone. It's composed of many other words. And so when you look up the definition of a dog in the dictionary, it doesn't just say dog is dog. It says dog is a mammal, blah, 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 blah. And there's a whole lot of other things. So every word has more than one word attached to it. And therefore, understanding words is very important. A dictionary is your best friend when you're learning. Now, here is a beginning thing. For all language, the first thing is words. How is a word made? How does a word come to be? Right? We have thousands, tens of thousands of words. How do they evolve? How did they come out? So here is how it works, basically. You see here we have an unknown object. Can you guess what that is?
Like a rock.
You ever see a rock like that?
Type of meteor rock.
Right? A meteor, right? Looks like a meteor. Now, that rock is appearing with a lot of smooth rocks. These kind of rocks only appear where? Near water, which wears down the edges. This edge is not worn down. So first thing in making, if you showed this to somebody and you asked them, what is it? What is that? Is it a Christmas package?
Mhm.
Is it a weapon that somebody was trying to make those sharp edges on there so it can cut? Is it a meteorite? Since it's in an environment near a river, some water, how did it get there? So the first thing that people, when they see an unknown object, is they try and figure out what it is. And when they don't, what they begin to do automatically is to memorize what it looks like. So they will begin by analyzing the salient qualities, those things that stick out. And then once they identify the qualities, those salient qualities, they'll try and make an association. And those metaphorical associations, that means they're going to make an association about that thing that is not that thing. Okay, that's a little confusing. So when you don't know what something is, you say, oh, it's like this.
Yeah.
Right? So that you don't know what it is, so you're associating it with something else. And then you make a description about that, which you had that association. And then you combine those descriptions and create a category, and then you name it. You give it a name, and the name has all those qualities that you have discovered. And so the name incorporates the idea. So this is what we're doing here is not normally done. Nobody does this. I'm sure none of you have done this. This is what people who are in science do. They're researching, some kind of cancer cell, and they're looking through a microscope and they're analyzing and drawing pictures and picking out things and testing. But most of us don't do that. We don't spend our time. We already know what something is. But here we have something that we're not quite sure. Is it real or is it artificial? Is it something made? Are those little speckles on there paint that somebody did? They painted a rock or painted some paper that they had paper mache? Now, how would you know it's not paper mache? How would you know, Bio?
Well, these days with AI and the Photoshop going on,
if you found this thing on your desk and you looked at it without touching it, how would you know it's not paper mache?
It's going to be difficult.
No, you pick it up.
Yeah, that's if you pick it up, yeah.
But
just looking at it cannot tell.
Can't just look at it. You have to pick it up and you'll see that it has weight. So it can't be paper mache because paper mache doesn't have so much weight.
Yeah.
Then maybe you take it into the bathroom and then run it under some water to see if those white dots come off. Right? So we play with it. We touch it. We examine it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the process that is used to name any object or think. This process, everybody goes through without thinking. And when we want to make something, we use that process. When we want to create a new thing from an unknown thing. And we do that with tangible or intangible items. So something we can't see, we will do the same thing. We will try to find some quality. We'll try to find something. That's why God becomes wind, right? Spirit becomes like a wind because we feel it blowing through us. And so we then describe it in such a way. Now, you always, in order to have a thing, it has to have a description. No description, no thing.
No description, no thing.
Yeah. So here we have an unknown object. So we're going to assume that somebody did this. They say it's a rough black object. They measure it 5 inches by 7 by 3. It has irregular, sharp edges, shiny silver specks across its surface, weigh about 3 pounds. It's cool to the touch, found near a riverbank. So that's what we see. So we analyze the salient qualities. So now we're going to show how this pragmatic naming process goes forward. So rough textured surface, black base color, silver specks resembling stars, celestial bodies, right? Wouldn't it look like if you took one side of that, put it up, it looks like stars in the sky. And it has a dense, solid composition. It's not porous, it's not flaky, it's very solid. So now we identify the next is we identify qualities conducive to metaphorical association. So speckled silver shapes against a black background evoke stars in a night sky. And the solid rocky nature suggests a type of mineral or lithic composition, meaning a rock, a stone. And so now we're going to try and make a name from all of these associations. So we say it's star dappled or star spotted, night flecked, or astral crusted, right? So we're getting close to a name where took all the qualities and we condensing it. And then we combine these things. We say star dappled stone, or a night flecked lithic, or an astral crusted mineral, right? We're making the name. Then we decide we're going to just make one name. We don't want it too complicated. So we say star crust, or night fleck, or astrolith. And astrolith comes from the word meaning star, and the Greek lithos meaning stone or rock. So star rock. Okay, so then we codify the most evocative, meaningful form, an astrolith. That's what that thing is. So now we just created something, and we call it astrolith, star rock. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is how all words are made. And so all words compose of all those other things, but we put it into one word. So the vast majority of natural language for commonplace objects and properties and so on, it's a process that occurs unconsciously. And we don't think about it, but it just develops. And then after it develops, we pick it up from other people when they speak. So they will say things to you like, did you see that astrolith? And you
What
go,
astrolith?
I didn't see that astrolith. You have one? Yeah, look at it. Here, check it out. And so now if you didn't have that name, you say, hey, I got this thing. Yeah, what thing you got? I got this thing. Oh, that's a nice thing. How does that work if everything is just a thing? right? No, it can't communicate. So the original names for things like rock, water, fire, they all arose pretty spontaneously. So if you put your hand in a fire and it burns you, you ouch, right? You get a reaction. And all you do is put a sound to that. You don't need to think much about it because it's a very direct experience. So a sound will do to answer that or to create a word. Now, so we have these experiences and then we create a word. Now, over time, this is how the vocabulary of a language develops. Now, nobody knows where the words come from until you start studying etymologies and you look at the word and so on. But however, there is also a more conscious way of doing this. And this is what wordsmiths do. You know, they, in poetry, scientific notation, and nomenclature, they create new words. And this is skilled linguistics. And this is something we badly need, right, Bio? Don't we need it? We need to find new words, which you are always creating. In your writings, you have new words that nobody uses. Universal siblings. I never heard that before. I don't know where you got it, or you just thought about it and made it up because it's better than saying brothers and sisters, because that's so worn out. Right? So universal siblings makes us renew our thought and that we are all together rather than the old worn thing. We're all brothers and sisters. And everybody goes, nah.
And think about it that way. Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Is that not correct?
Yeah,
What we're talking that you constantly have this new language that you are actually creating that nobody ever used before, not that I've heard. And it gives us a chance to renew our understanding of something that we took for granted previously. So anyway, we get these carefully crafted neologism, new words, and terminological systems by making some effort. And, you know, not effort like bling. Got a lot of bling on. Well, where did that word come from? Right? That kind of slang is what we talked about earlier, like water, fire, and so on. It's not, nobody sat down and, what's the etymology of bling? Is there an etymology? What is it? Do you know? Bling is what? Excessive jewelry?
Sparkle, I guess.
What?
Sparkle, bling.
Well,
That's
bling,
yeah,
but it's not just
bling, bling.
Yeah,
Sparkle.
bling is also the actual thing of jewelry.
Yeah.
Now, so we have three ways by which this process can go. It's on a spectrum. You can do it unconsciously or partially consciously or intentionally. The more intentional you are, the more you are in control of language itself. That means you never let words get away with you. You always know what the words mean. And we are careful about that. So these beginning words, rock, tree, fire, water, sky, mother, night, walk, those are all words that are just, that come out of you and easily picked up. Then you can have where it's mixed, rocket ship, smartphone, fairy tale, biohazard, bling. Right? Those are kind of mixed, some thought and some unconscious thing mixed together. And then you have completely new terms, lepton, Anthropocene, meme, astrolith, which only certain people know these words. These are created words, new words. And you have to be in the sphere of this in order to understand those words. So we then need to really be conscious of this word creation and word meaning. Now, let's look at this astrolith and take this example to the end. So before you had those 7 characteristics of language. Now, this is how this astrolith has been made. And why go through this? It's because a word like God or spirit, there's something deep inside that word. It's not just that word.
Yes.
And so we have to know what it means. We have to explore it and then see its limits. So here, the astrolith, it represents, the word represents a described object, which is distinct from the object itself, right? An astrolith, when you say the word astrolith, that there doesn't need to be an astrolith there, right? You could say, I'm talking about astroliths. You're talking about it, but where are these astroliths? You say, oh, they're by the riverbed. There's nothing there. There's nothing, you're just using a word. So you say to me, show me the astrolith. A person who is understanding the difference between a word and the thing it represents, the actual, will say, I don't have it. It's just a word right here. I'm just talking about that thing. Now, you don't know what it is? Let me show you a picture. You know, they'll try and do something. That's the person who's in control of the language. But if you say to somebody, well, show me what you're talking about, and they struggle, they don't know that the word doesn't mean anything. It's just a symbol. So here we create this word. We create a word for this item, unknown thing, and which is from our sensory data. And we have one word with a definition here. There it is, astrolith. Oops, go back. Nope, go back. So the astrolith is an object that is hard, irregularly shaped, having sharp edges, a rough black surface with shiny silver specks, distributed across the entire surface and cold to the touch and found near the banks of rivers. Okay, of course, the astrolith varies in size, dimensions, weight, and location. So when I say astrolith, I'm not talking about this particular one, but a general one. Just like when I say I love dogs, I didn't say which kind of dog, just concept. So that's a formative force. So in relation to other lithics, meaning other stones, an astrolith is a lithostelloid. Right? Now, what is that? It's a new word. Right? And it means something, which we'll learn about what it is later when we created this. So the new object shapes how these star-specked rocks are conceptually organized within a broader system. That means now we have this rock, but look at all the other rocks around it, other stones. So this is only one thing among many, many others. And so we always, every word is in a context, and we should always know what that context is. So now this astrolith is added to the taxonomy containing other lithic classes. So we haven't said what those classes are, but it's somewhere fitting in there. And so while originally based on a specific astrolith specimen, meaning this one in the picture, the term astrolith is an abstract concept formed from the idea of different specimens of star-like speckled rocks. So there are many star-like speckled rocks like this.
Correct.
The astrolith is just a concept taken from them. So the many different astroliths out there with all different sizes, dimensions, weights, and locations, when we say astrolith, we're only talking about an abstraction, not anything particular. Right? So people mistake the concept for a particular, which is an error. So we move on. That name also structures relationships. Now that we have astrolith, it has to fit into the framework of existing rocks and stones and codify, classify. And then this creates something in a taxonomy. It has its place. It has a picture, it has its place, it has its name, it has its definition. So when we talk about angels, spirits, people, that's what we're doing. We're putting a name. Oh, AC. Then trying to class him and put him into a kind of person. Now you can't do that, because the person, when you try and class something, how can you do that to a human being? You would have to know everything about that human being. So it is wrong to class people, to stereotype people, to put them into a limited set of characteristics because they cannot fit within it. Now, you can fit a general puppet or dummy or mannequin. You can create a mannequin called AC, but it's not AC. Not bio. Now that you say Aju, but you know that 99% of the human beings can't get out of doing that? That they think this person is like this and not realizing that they're creating a concept. When you describe a person with limited characteristics, you're creating a concept, not a person. The actual being can never be encapsulated in the concept. That's what we're trying to get here. So we said we move on, and the imaginative and metaphorical aspects of this unknown object is to link the terrestrial mineral world and the astronomical otherworldly realm, right? Out of space. That's what it's doing. It's making this as this kind of a star rock. It's of this earth, but not of this earth. And then we share this and have a cultural transmission. So as astrolith, it's a codified lithic term. It has denotations, connotations, and a place within the geological lexicon. So this is a very small thing. It's not big, it's just very small. But we talk about it, it's very big, isn't it? It's in our face. But actually, in terms of the knowledge system, the classification system, it's one tiny part. And it enables people, this little tiny thing, that we can then talk about it, researchers can, and publications can be written about it. We can have a discussion about it. And so we come up with an astrolith, which is a carbonaceous lithostelloid, all made up. Okay? Now, is that rock real?
Dr. Aaron, you smile.
Is it real? We just talked all about this thing. Is it real? AC, you think it's real? What's your guess? You just looking at it. What's your guess?
I think it's real. I think it's real, whatever it is.
Okay, whatever it is, yes, it's a real thing. But is it a carbonaceous lithostelloid? Right? It's because we made it. As we talk, we made this. It's going to be very hard to get that out of your head, that this is an astrolith. Okay, so let's go further. The type of rock, right? Now we look at it, it's got to be one of these three types, because these are the only basic three types of rocks on the earth, since it's found on the earth. What is it? Is it igneous, sedimentary, or metamorphic? This is where rocks go. They go into this type. They got to be a type. Anytime rock you find, it's going to be a type. Why? Because we have all these concepts about them, and we put it in the concept. So where does this one go?
And
Yes.
ignorance it to me.
Well, we know it's not foliated. I mean, it's not foliated. It's not crumbly. It's not relatively hard. It's very hard. So it's got to be igneous.
Mhm.
And which one is it? Intrusive or extrusive? I'm not sure. It looks extrusive, right?
It looks extrusive.
Yes, it looks extrusive because it's sharp and angular. So let's we put it in there. So this is an igneous rock called astrolith. So now we never think of rocks as being alive, right? We don't think of rocks are alive, but actually rocks are changing all the time. And there's a rock cycle, just like water cycle, where water goes from the clouds to rain, down the mountains, into the aquifers and into the streams and rivers and back into the ocean and then evaporated again. So it's always moving around. Water is constantly in a cycle. So rocks are too. So this igneous rock has come from some kind of magma. So now we put it into an active cycle. So our little creation now came out of the earth at some time. Either it was blown out through a volcano, or it was uplifted by pressure, different kinds of uplift pressures that push rock from underground up, and then eroded and pushed out towards near the riverbeds. So it fits into this cycle. And then it fits into a larger set of information. And in this case, it would be in the earth sciences. But it's just it's just one little rock inside these earth sciences. And inside earth sciences, which is geology, geography, and so on. And then inside of geology, there's a discipline called petrology. Petrology is the study of rocks. And so we fit it in here, and all this knowledge, all of these disciplines and professions this is all the stories that languages make. So rock is one word, and it goes here in the earth sciences, this astrolith. But look at all this other stuff. What do we know about all this other stuff? Right? Hardly anything. Who can claim to know anything in the sciences, mathematics, statistics? Who knows? But there's a whole lot of people, and their brains are working, and they're producing words and ideas and concepts. And concepts are running through all of this. Nothing but a big, huge world of concepts. There's a real world, an actual world, a world that we sense, and then there's this. So we have to know that words eventually lead to this, to the fit into a network of ideas. These are all part of belief systems. And many of these things are mythical. They're not telling you anything truthful. It's just beliefs. So say, for example, in physics, which is a natural science, it's supposed to tell us what the origin of matter is.
Really?
Instead of saying it doesn't know, it says, oh, it's the Big Bang. Oh, it's dark matter. And they take physics and they go outside of it and then make a belief, make a myth. And how do they do that? With words. All of these things are just chock full of words. Books and tons and millions of books, 10 million books. Here you go. Here are all the Library of Congress, which is the greatest library in the world. Right? It's the largest library in the world. It has mostly all the published books in the world are inside the Library of Congress. Oh, I can't answer that now. And so here you have all the different kinds of knowledge. All of this is in the Library of Congress inside of books, CDs, videos, all having to do with words. Nobody knows all of these things, right? This is the world right here. This is the conceptual world in this area. So when, AC asks a question and I say, I don't know, this is the reason. Look at all this stuff. What do you know? Okay, I ask, what do you know about naval science down here, V? Or how about sanitary engineering? Or let's go over to pick something.
So much to pick.
Heraldry. These auxiliary sciences of history.
And these are all just broad categories again.
And these break down into hundreds of smaller,
thousands of smaller categories.
Yes.
So
and this is all words. They're all words, all language. And there's a certain pride that people have in creating this stuff, but nobody's read all the books in the Library of Congress, not even AI, not yet. So we come then to the conclusion where the next topic can be myth, if there are no questions about how we create one word. One word is connected to other words and creating a network of concepts, theories, ideas, myths, stories, including religion, technology, language and literature, and so on. And we know now that words are not the thing. They're just a symbol. And therefore, we should be very careful and come to manage language in a healthy, productive way.
Okay. Amen. Jill, thank you, Dr. Lewis. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sincerely. I pray we've all been enlightened or just reinforced many things, I think, with respect to everyone here. Many of these you already can echo in a unique way, but it's just so refreshing to hear the breakdown. I know time is upon us, it's 9, but maybe we can spend a little time just either finding a portion of this presentation to echo, just a portion that really touched your heart. We want to be in the business of echoing because, again, we can create more, but I know the more we can echo certain needed facts. For example, I would love, is that me? Is that the new jingle bell? I would love to.
The doorbell.
Okay, somebody is coming in. I would love for us to, that concept of nature, nurture and nature is so still very relevant because there's no conclusive, it's not either or, at least the way when we look at the examples, how nature has its embedded role where if it is watered properly, we see the young lady coming back to that very good we hear in the Bible, where she is willing to forgive, willing to meet the abusive parents and find that depth of spirit of, that persons would think the scientists were baffled at that part. They were thinking, why would you want to go back to a place that has left a memory of or has scarred your life? But yet that instinctive, that unseen force we call maybe God or goodness, that I think for me I've come to realize is in everybody. And that's what really makes us yoke. But again, I just felt, if anybody wants to echo on that, nature and nurture, they're not mutually exclusive. It's not the genes that really make you a God person, because somebody say, God created us in our image and likeness, automatically you're good. You also need the environment, people, places, and good words to help. So that's my small reflection on today's I think amazing information. Yes, Dr. Aaron.
I just like to ask Louis one question.
Okay.
Those people that we saw in the jungle, what do they call themselves? Human with another word? What do they call themselves?
They call themselves Angu.
Now, what do that mean? What do that mean? And
I
just a word. What they call themselves?
The Angu. They're called the Anga or the Angu or the Tulambi. They have the basic name is or the Kuka Kuka.
It's like you call yourself an American. Simple,
Okay.
Yeah, it's like they identify themselves as, But I think your question is, you're trying to say, are they human? Is that
No.
what? They are very human.
They're human. They're very.
How do they get? I know. How do they get there, Louis?
Huh?
How long they been there? Do you know?
They've been there.
Do you know how long they've been out there?
Well, that particular area, that's in the highlands of Papua New Guinea. They're at least there more than 10,000 years.
Oh my God!
Indigenous people. I mean, those people that at that time, it was the first time that they came across other human beings that were dissimilar to them.
Where do they get their clothes from?
Those shawls, it's made from bark. Yeah. It's made from bark, and they beat the bark. Yeah, bark, tree bark. Tree bark. It's not cloth. They have nothing modern, nothing. Everything is what they've made. They're completely isolated until that time. I mean, you should look at the video. I can put it in the chat.
Oh my God.
Those are, they okay. Sent it. And
okay.
They those are everything they made themselves.
They actually created their own world.
They created their own world.
And they have a management system based on nature. They have a relationship with nature. And so they have named things based on their response to nature. They communicate with the bees, the plants, the kava, the yoga, the yucca. They hunt. They know the seasons.
You saw their weapons.
And they know how to defend themselves.
Very
And so
sophisticated.
people create their own world. And there are cultures that go back even further than 10,000 years.
Sure.
And they have not sought to go out and exploit anybody that we know of.
Yeah,
They're up in the
from
highlands.
what you just said, they're a little most.
Huh?
From what she just said, they're a little more civilized than we are. I said, from what she just said, they are a little bit more civilized than we are.
Right, because they get married.
I wouldn't say that about that group.
They get
group,
married. They have children.
No, they were at one time very violent. Okay. They go around killing people.
Okay, they were really okay, like Shaka Zulu.
No,
that's another.
No, just the. I don't know if you know about Papua New Guinea.
Yeah,
they fight a lot. They're cannibals. They eat people, eat people's brains.
Oh, what?
Well, again, this is.
I mean, you know, my mother used to fix brains and eggs.
Okay, but you weren't eating your bad cousin's brains.
No, but there was some poor animal brain,
right?
You know, that she made an omelet out of, and so that's kind of interesting how our perception of our universal siblings.
The brain of the goat.
Huh?
They ate the brain of the goat, right?
Yeah, they ate the brain of the goat. Right?
You have to study.
And it's a delicacy.
Making kwambi. Make some kwambi with it.
And that's what the modern day cannibals, if I may just share a little, this is what the modern day cannibals we find really in Gaza wanting people to turn into. There's worse cannibalism going on in the modern man who is supposed to be more civilized. And back to what Brother Louis, which is so important here, how persons who own the definition or claim again, who write the dictionary, who want to define what cannibalism is, again, another word, based on their own terms of wanting to put others in a certain category. So I love the evolution of the innocence, people who are living, who have not sought to impose themselves on others, but others come and label them based on certain, yes, people fight, people are hungry, but the modern man, we must judge this against the modern man who claims he is not a cannibal. And yet,
well, no, that cannibalism just means you eat human beings. That's all that.
Yeah, and
it doesn't have to be negative. People in the Donner Pass, the people in I think it was Argentina on the mountain there in the snow. They ate the dead, people who died. They ate them, and the way they did it, they cut them up in private so that nobody knew what part they were eating or whatever, and they survived by eating the bodies of their fellow passengers.
Yeah, it's
but I mean the highlands.
There are people who eat chicken, beef, and pork, and they think it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, really, they think, this chicken is not a dinosaur. This beef, this goat, this lamb, and pretend that Allah has blessed them during so that they can have a halal dinner, with no blood, or a kosher dinner. And actually, they're repeating the same primitive cycles of chasing animals and shortening their lifespan. So, you know, when we look at knowledge as intelligent beings, the intel of the genes and the interaction with the five senses, along with other faculties, we really need to spend more time in study mode, because the evolution of the prefrontal cortex, we need to use that more and not use the backward part.
Yeah. I think the word for cannibalism, there's I think it's anthrophagy.
Anthrophagy.
Anthrophagy. Is that right, Linda? I think it's
Right.
anthrophagy.
What do we supposed to eat?
We should check it so we don't leave without knowing.
What do we supposed to eat?
What?
I said, what does we supposed to eat?
Oh, you're supposed to. Okay.
Let me maybe the Bible tells you clearly, Dr. Arrow, you're the bishop of the Bible. The Bible says
Leviticus 11.
Yeah. The Bible says the herbs in Genesis is very clear. The beginning, it says the herbs are for meat for your body. So
anthropophagy. It's
so,
anthropophagy.
We're supposed to eat just herbs.
They say fruit should be your meat.
Yeah, the herbs.
Fruit should be your food.
Yep.
Food does not mean chicken, beef, pork, bacon,
crabs,
jambalaya. Food does not mean sausage. Food means meat, means just food, living food.
Vegetables, fruits.
We gotta get rid of these.
The canine. That's for tearing a little bit of that.
It's anthropophagy. Anthropophagy.
Anthropophagy.
That's
and that means what, sir?
Eating human flesh.
Eating human flesh, yeah.
So they are anthropophagists.
Jesus. What are all them if we don't eat them chickens, they're gonna overpopulate the earth.
No.
So I have this article on how the chicken was discovered in Indonesia, and how the history of chicken. A little dinosaur. little dinosaurs and ladies.
That's what they say. That's what they say. Birds
are shrunk down.
Descendants of dinosaurs.
They call them fowl. Fowl. What does fowl mean to you?
Yep.
No eating fowl.
It's interesting how another cultures, we say nuance of things. For example, we go to burial where some cultures would take their loved ones up in a mountain and allow the birds, the vultures, to eat, to pick the body apart, and then they go pick the bones. And some persons, would frown. Hey, again, this is part of the Western kind of brainwashing. This is just the truth, where we think because English again, we are speaking English, that means English knows everything, and the English cultural ways of expression has become more dominant, and we know why. It is through force, not even through persuasion, but because of the gun. Their weapons have made now this differing. But Louis, I want to thank you because we need to keep looking at our languages, how the next phase, how language now turns into myth, you know, how another man's, because of his words about God, if somebody say Allah, another one say Jehovah, Aglugagu, we English persons get discombobulated as if we are saying different things, and actually maybe all saying the same thing.
And to understand the history and how this developed, so I took a Arabic course pathway. I took an ancient Egyptian pathway. And then I took a Sanskrit pathway. And it says that the language was created by Shiva's Tamaru. There are 14 distinct sounds that come from the human being, no matter where they are on the planet. No matter where they are, they express these sounds. And the structure of the mouth does not change from one culture to another, but we have a way of interacting with nature. And this usually starts with a monosyllabic sound or vibration. It's not, you know, it's like a child that says ah or ba, and then they repeat it twice, mama or dada
Baba.
or baba.
Yeah.
And so these sounds, you know, are frequencies to as a they act as a locator frequency, a tuning in to find your coordinates in an ecosystem.
Wow. Dr. Linda, you know me, this stream of consciousness must flow. So before we end language and go to myth, maybe this coming Saturday, let's hear those 14 sounds. If you can come and give us a background on the origin of those 14 sounds.
Okay, but they come from
sister, because of time.
They come from a drum.
Yes, so prepare now and share with us that take us back to those sounds, those 14 sounds, and this Saturday we can really round up language based on that and then prepare for next week as we enter into myths. I think that will be very, very, very good. To echo again for our biblical brothers and sisters in this Easter tide, you know, say in the beginning was sound, the word, and it is true sound. So we're going to hear a very beautiful continuation, echoing of language, how it, again, is at the origin of everything. Dr. Aaron, again, I want to thank you for, you represent our great sphere of brothers who we need to bring in from our so-called Christian belief system. I'm just saying that to you because I want you to know I am not a Christian. I thought I was, but and I want to say that to my brother, brother Louis. I thought I was a unificationist, but I'm not. I don't know what that word means.
And Dr. Louis finish what he's doing?
Say that again.
Has he finished the whole section of the word?
That's what we are saying. So on Saturday we wrapped up for language. We are wrapping up language this Saturday, and Sister Linda will be bringing us again, take us a little further back, and then we will just continue. We finish with language this Saturday. Yes, ma'am. And then Dr. Lewis will start with myth next week. But as I was saying, even Sister Margaret,
yes.
I am no more a Pentecost.
Are you a pagan?
I'm more pagan than ever now because now I understand what pagan means very well, and it's a good word. It's a very good word. Jesus was a wonderful pagan. He loved the whole world. He loved all of us so much.
You know, And then there's the PE.
So let's look forward to this Saturday. Some of us will be with Louis tomorrow and Dr. Aaron with Levi's platform on Wednesday. We still pray Levi can join us on Tuesday to make this a family, to encourage others. We are bridge people, and I'm just enjoying this. I pray you can echo the enjoyment, Mrs. Bayo. I hope you're enjoying. Dr. Margaret, magnify us with why we should be here as universal siblings. If you were to give a commercial today, if someone was to tell you, why do you want us to be part of Tuesday and Saturday and Sunday, what would you tell the world?
Because we are blossoming in the heavenly couple ministry. The blooming flowers that are so bright, voluptuous, perfumed, filled with love, unity, harmony, friendship, you name it, all, majesty, filled with spirit. Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Yes, that's aroma.
Beautiful languages. We need to purify the air with just those beautiful languages. Bless you, Margaret. She's the magnifying one for Margaret, magnifier. Dr. Louis, again, you are awesome in your very thoroughness, and I bleed in my heart because I want others to be.
Dr. Louis say, what to tell you that he's awesome? What word is that? Awesome. What does that mean?
What word?
I said, show me. Dr. Louis, your sister is guiding you back. Say, show me awesome. So what does that? Show me awesome.
What does that mean?
Huh?
She's speaking on you.
Huh?
He's speaking on you today.
On you, Papa. So what does that mean? Awesome. Can you tell me? What does that mean? Is that something? What is it? That's my professor.
Christian? You're asking about Christian?
He said you're awesome. That's what you say. What does that mean? What do you mean by awesome? Is it a man or something?
Human.
So Louis, if someone, you know how you tease us a lot. So show me good. Show me. So we say you are awesome. So Sister Margaret is asking, show me awesome. Where is it? What do you mean?
I don't know. Show you awesome? You can't show awesome. How do you show awesome?
He said, what word is that? What is that? What word is awesome? Is that a thing? Oh boy.
It's an adjective. It's an adjective.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That is to be in awe of the handsome one. So that's where you get the awesomeness from. Brothers and sisters.
You can only have an experience with
an
this.
Experience. Yes, yes. Don't you all love these words? No, we don't want to be we don't want experience, but we want to experience it. Sometimes you want to export it, right? But you need it from the inside. You need it to be
experience. Is a nicer word. Experience.
It's a nicer word. Oh, we are wordsmiths, Dr. Louis. We are words.
Dr. Lina making his words like Father Bayo too. They're bringing words that you never heard.
We are wordsmiths.
Make up all the new words. So
there you go.
Well, we say meta 5, but meta 8.
Experience. Yes. And let's take this. See, this is how, somebody asks, I think that's how Yeshua, the one who is sure, he says we have to bring greater words, new words to make better relationship. And if we take that humble and sincerely, we see it unfolding. We really see it unfolding in our midst. And it's catching on. Believe me, it's catching on. So let's spread the word. We're universal siblings. Don't hesitate. It's not my word. It's again, it emerged. More new words will emerge. Experience. We're experiencing. It's a beautiful word. It can help people activate better. Again, what Louis has told us, to be particular, to really mold our words so that it's like a sculpture. what is the intention of that word. So at least it can make those good connections. Thank you all. Mrs. Bayo, anything from you, Mommy? The one who is always, unmute yourself there. We can't go without hearing from you.
I just
Thank
wanted
you
to
so
say,
much, very intelligent
on the drum on the back bend.
So impressed to me was how important to develop human like human being through the stimulant communication. That part a lot impacted me. Many children recently in Japan, very famous and developing a disability. I was looking into probably all this lack of stimulant is the cause for all this disconnected. So thank you so much, Dr. Batis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pray that that kind of awareness more goes out. We can create such an environment, children will grow properly. Thank you.
Adults and adults.
And adults,
Adults
yeah.
need to grow.
That's right.
Yeah.
Adults need to grow.
We need
You
to.
know,
And so as we interact in a positive way with radiant energy, good love, and a balanced brain, then we can get through and show that person the real Purusha. The Purusha is the blueprint that we're going to go by, of that divine being. Yes. Not the animal, because we know the animal doesn't work. The
Come on the animal planet.
Mrs. Bayo brought up something so true. The reason we're having a spread of mental, maladies is, what COVID did, that isolation time. We can see the impact of just those 2 years or 2.5 years of lack of interaction. And we are experiencing it, if my wife don't mind. My father-in-law is, we didn't realize how it was important to even keep the phone connection that time as often as possible. I'm not knowing how so many elders, as Dr. Linda noted, the adults were even more deprived of that social interaction, going back to, again, nurturing just the comfort, just hearing another person's voice, especially a familiar person who resonates. It goes a long way for the overall health. So we are not pioneering, but we are helping people with our religion, our belief system. If it's still we are in it, pray can help persons really see these pragmatic connections, that language beyond speech, just the comfort as was experimented. Children will go without food, but the warmth, just having to hug mother and daddy is even more powerful brain and physical biological food than the physical food itself. So we're onto something wonderful. Let's be grateful. I'm grateful for all of you. Let's have a good night. Mrs. Bayo, thank you so much. Dr. Margaret, thank you so much. Dr. Aaron, it's your job to close us out in prayer. You are the gumbo man. Close us out in a word of prayer, sir.
That's a Louisiana offspring in Mississippi.
Thank you, Heavenly Parents, that you gave us eyes to see, tongues to talk, ears to hear, hands to feel. And Almighty God, thank you for this great teaching that we are hearing. We thank you for the people who got knowledge above what I know, can teach me more than what I know. I thank you for Dr. Lewis and Sister Linda and everybody on this call. Dr. Bayo, the heavenly couples, heavenly parents. Thank you for this day, what we just celebrated. I make this report in our name, AC Embedded Blessed Family. Good night, everybody. Good night.
Amen. Good night to everyone, and a good morning soon. Namaste.
Namaste.
Oh.
Good night. Good night to everybody.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Pastor Nancy.
Good night, my darling. How are
Good
you doing
night.
today?
Good night, Dr. Louis.
Love
Love
you.
you.